Hello and welcome to all of you. This is our March Lunch and Learn as part of our Lunch and Learn series. The title for today is Nutrition and Brain Health, Boosting Your Mood and Memory. We have Lori Boyd with us, and I'll be introducing her in just a few minutes. This is going to be an awesome presentation, so I'm so glad to have you all with us today. Just a few quick announcements. Please feel free to check out our website at mhaspartanburg.org, where all of our events are posted. All of our Lunch and Learn series that are recorded are there. So if you ever desire to go back and see some of our presentations, feel free to do that. And we also now are accepting online donations, if you weren't aware of that. So please help us out if you can. We're really trying to get word out and help destigmatize mental illness in our community by sharing this important information. So today we have with this particular presentation and most of our Lunch and Learn series, we have the opportunity for you to receive continuing education units, credits for this if you desire. And so I'm going to post in the chat a SurveyMonkey link for you if you do desire to get the continuing education credit. And what you'll do is you'll complete that survey by March 18th. Then you will get your certificate and contact Holly Cook, and I'll put all this in the chat, at Spartanburg Regional Corporate Education, and you will pay your $15 for your credit, and then you will receive your credit. So that's the best way to do that. I'll put that information in the chat for you if you're interested in getting the credit for today. And also, just want to make you aware, we have our next Lunch and Learn series on May 12th, and that will be Dr. Jim Rentz, and he will be talking about combat trauma. And prior to that, actually, on April 23rd, we're having our first annual mental health awareness and fundraising event at Hub City Farmers Market from 5 to 8. It's free. We're going to have music. We have a DJ, Terrence Hawes, coming with us, and we're going to have Bailey there with his art exhibit. We are actually going to start honoring one person in our community, starting with Bailey, actually, this particular event, to honor somebody in our community who has really helped reduce a stigma around mental illness and who has started that conversation, and also can give hope for recovery for folks who have mental health issues. So we really hope that you all will look out for those events. We'll be sending out flyers, and all of our email contacts will get that information as well. So make sure you're on our email list if you're not already, and that you like and follow our Facebook page so you can make sure to get that information. All right, today's speaker is Lori Boyd. Lori is with PAL Spartanburg. She has been in Spartanburg, has called Spartanburg home since 1985. She's been involved with many community organizations, holding leadership positions and serving on nonprofit boards through the years. She's been a registered nurse for over 4 decades, working in a variety of fields. She has a Master of Science degree in nursing administration and has held numerous special certifications throughout her career. She is currently certified in lifestyle medicine by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and this has become an area of passion for her, which is why she's here today to share this with us. Encouraging people to advocate for their own health and helping them understand that lifestyle behaviors impact the length and quality of life has been particularly rewarding. She started the Veg Edge, a plant-based potluck group, in July of 2019, and she remains active with the group on Facebook. Lori, we're so glad to have you here today. I know you've got an awesome presentation for us that you're going to share on the screen in the form of a PowerPoint. Let me just let everyone know, I will be putting in the chat a Google document that you can click on that link, and you'll have access to the PowerPoint as well as all the handouts that have resources that Lori has provided. So make sure you check that out. You will also get that same link in a post lecture follow-up email that you'll receive. So if by being here today, you have access to that, and you'll also receive the recording, the link to the recording after today as well. So, all right. Oh, I almost forgot. Questions. If you can put your questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, if you'll see that, you're welcome to if you have a statement or comment or anything to put in the chat, that's fine. But if you would focus on putting any questions that you have in the Q&A, that way we will get to that at the very end, and that'll help us kind of focus on all the questions at the end, and help Lori so that she can get through her presentation first. So.
And not get distracted and go down a rabbit hole.
It'll be great. Thank you, Lori.
So it says that my screen sharing is disabled.
Oh no. Here we go. I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay.
I took care of that the other day. Okay, should be working now.
It is.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Maggie. And hi, everybody. I did take a quick peek in the beginning to see who was here, and was really happy to see some of my friends there. And so hi, everybody. And those of you that don't know me, I hope that you will know me after this. But I'm really happy to be here with all of you today. And as Maggie said, lifestyle medicine has become a passion of mine. Today, we are talking about nutrition and brain health, how to boost mood and memory utilizing food. So the purpose and objectives are here. I don't really need to read these to you. You can see those, but what I do want to make sure is that you understand the importance of lifestyle behaviors, know what the 6 tenets of lifestyle medicine are, how they can impact your brain health and your overall health. And then at the very end, there's a slide with resources there, some of my very favorite things, not everything, but a lot of my favorite things, as well as my contact information. So I am going to read this disclaimer, but before I do, I want to highlight these 2 little badges that are on the left side of the screen, because this is something that I'm very proud of. I am a graduate of the Plant-Based Nutrition Certificate Program from the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies at Cornell, and this was a phenomenal program and gave me a lot of information related to lifestyle medicine. So the disclaimer that I need to share with you is that the information presented today is for informational purposes only and is not meant to serve as medical advice. You should not dramatically change your diet without consulting your healthcare provider, particularly if you are on medication or have significant medical issues. Changing your nutrition can change your body so quickly that some medications, especially diabetes medications, need to be monitored and adjusted within a short period of time. And we're talking a week or less for some people. Be smart about changing your diet and seek professional consultation for whatever your personal situation may be. So now we're going to define lifestyle medicine according to the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And lifestyle medicine is the use of a whole food, plant predominant dietary lifestyle, regular physical activity, restorative sleep, stress management, avoidance of risky substances, and positive social connection as a primary therapeutic modality for treatment and reversal of chronic disease. Treatment and reversal of chronic disease. So here are the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. We will go through them individually in just a minute. We're going to focus mostly on the nutrition side, but I will highlight each of these others: sleep, exercise, substance use, stress management, and social connection. All of these together are important for improving our health. Lifestyle change is the first line of defense, and many organizations say that in their guidelines, in their clinical guidelines. The American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association, the American Cancer Society all say lifestyle changes should come first as treatment for many chronic conditions, often before any medication is prescribed. And unfortunately, what we see in our current healthcare system is that, you tend to get a prescription. If you go to the doctor and you have high cholesterol, they, maybe want to start with a prescription because they don't have the time or the knowledge in how to counsel you adequately on lifestyle behaviors. And frankly, they're not paid for prevention. They're paid to provide treatments and procedures. That's the way our system is structured. So brain health really does begin with gut health. The gut is often referred to as the second brain. I love this little cartoon here. Gut, you boost my serotonin, baby. Oh, brain, you give me butterflies. But you know, when you have those butterflies in your stomach, it really is your body talking to you and telling you something. And we need to pay attention to what's going on with our bodies. The enteric nervous system consists of two thin layers and over 100 million nerve cells lining our GI tract. The gut microbes both produce and respond to neurohormones. And the gut produces more than 30 neurotransmitters. Over half of the dopamine in our body is produced in our gut, and serotonin, 90% of that is produced in our gut. These are feel-good hormones that help us stay calm and productive and motivated and all of that. And if we're not having adequate nutrition to feed our gut, we're not doing as well as we can in producing these hormones for our mental health. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about why lifestyle matters and what it is outside of nutrition. Let's start with sleep. Insufficient sleep is associated with increased appetite, weight gain, increased risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, impaired immune system, depression, poor concentration, productivity, and work performance, and poor athletic performance. You know, if you don't have a good night's sleep, how you feel the next day. And it's not so much about the amount of sleep, it's also the quality of sleep. So that we could do an entire presentation on that. Exercise, also known as physical activity. For some people, exercise is not so much a dirty word, but it's very stressful to think about exercise if they haven't done it before. But regular physical activity increases the production of short-chain fatty acids. And we're going to talk about those all-stars in the next slide in a little bit more depth. Also stabilizes blood sugar and lowers triglycerides, boosts the immune system, energy, and mood, but you can't outrun your fork. You know, we tend to think, well, if I exercise, I can eat whatever I want. And that's not really true. And it's not so much how much you eat, it's what you eat. And we will, again, talk about that in detail in just a little bit. If you have physical activity outdoors, there's a bonus in reconnecting with nature. It boosts your mood, but it also increases the diversity of your microbiome because you're exposed to things outside of your body and outside of your home. Substance use can prevent us from being present, and binge alcohol consumption damages our gut microbiota by increasing intestinal permeability, could lead to leaky gut and release of bacterial endotoxins. If you've ever had a hangover, you know that your gut is not happy with you. Binge alcohol consumption, what that means, what the definition of that is, for men, it's 5 or more drinks in a 2-hour or less period. And for women, 4 or more drinks in 2 hours or less. Stress management, we know stress is ever present in our lives, particularly now. We're still going on with this global pandemic. Now there's a war. There's plenty of things for us to be stressed about in addition to our own personal situations. We really need to focus on practicing meditation and mindfulness to try to help slow things down. It allows our gut to increase production, again, of these short-chain fatty acids and also anti-inflammatory substances. You see a lot of things here about the immune system and inflammation. Nutrition can help with so many things, adequate nutrition. Social connection, and of course, we're not talking about social media. I think we all know that social media can be very harmful to our mental health. Our environment and the people we surround ourselves with allow a microbial exchange that keeps us alive and thriving. And that's a quote from my new favorite book, FiberField, which I based a lot of this presentation on. And, you know, so being with other humans, it doesn't just help our mental health, it also helps our gut health. So let's talk a little bit about these short chain fatty acids. They are chemical compounds that are formed from the breakdown of some of the foods that we eat. And you can see their chemical composition at the bottom of the screen here. The 3 types, acetate, propionate, and butyrate. And it works best if we are able to access all 3 of these chemical compounds, which we can do by consuming a diverse mix of fiber. And you'll hear me say this more than once today, fiber is only found in plant foods. These short chain fatty acids are anti-inflammatory. They correct dysbiosis. They heal leaky gut. They optimize immune function, regulate appetite and metabolism. So I think hopefully you're starting to see that everything is connected here. The appetite, the metabolism, the anti-inflammation, all of these things are connected within our bodies. Also help decrease the risk for cancer, heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. And butyrate has been shown to improve learning and memory. So let's talk a little bit about supplements, because we are a medication happy society. Supplements are meant to supplement inadequate diet and lifestyle, not replace what you're already doing. So like any kind of medication, when you are taking a medication, you need to work with that medication with your lifestyle, not against it. There are no shortcuts to a healthy microbiome, and many have little to no research to support them. They're not regulated by the FDA, and they can be a waste of money or even harm you. The things that you see advertised on TV or you hear advertised on the radio or online or wherever, the ones that are most heavily advertised are the least likely to work, but they're going to put money in somebody's pocket. So if you are taking supplements, make sure you tell your healthcare provider about those. Even though they are not prescription drugs, they need to be included in your medication list because they can have interactions with other medications. If you are taking supplements, look for something, this USP symbol. What this symbol means when you see it is that the manufacturer has submitted their product, and what is on the label is what is in the bottle. So this, the next two slides were from a series that, webinar that I attended from American College of Lifestyle Medicine and Continuing Education. 70% of our primary care visits are related to stress and lifestyle. Chronic conditions are associated with stress and mental illness. Stress and anxiety can impact our ability to make health behavior changes. If we're not in our optimal mental health, we're not likely to make physical changes as well, health behavior changes. These next 3 or 4 points are really kind of disturbing to me. Depression is associated with diabetes and coronary artery disease. In fact, suicidal ideation is linked with insulin therapy, duration of diabetes, and poor glycemic control. So when your blood sugar is out of whack, it really does interfere with your mentation. Diabetes is a hard disease to live with. We have a pre-diabetes epidemic. As much as 90% of people with pre-diabetes don't even know they have it. So please make sure you're getting an annual checkup to see where your numbers are. Depression also precedes coronary artery disease by many years and is an independent primary risk factor for developing ischemic heart disease and cardiac events. Very disturbing to me to hear this. And also the depression predicts greater two-year risk for cardiac events and death, and increases the risk of cardiac events by 15 to 30% in those with coronary artery disease. Let's talk about the benefits of a plant-based diet to emotional well-being. Eating fruits and vegetables can improve your happiness and your eudaimonic well-being, which is our meaning and purpose in life. It can improve our curiosity and our creativity, improves physical functioning, sleep, energy, and vitality. Our emotional well-being can lower depression and anxiety, all because of what we eat. A greater carotenoid concentration in your foods and your fruits and vegetables, those are the yellow, the orange, and the red pigments, are linked with higher levels of optimism. Turmeric, saffron, probiotics, flax seeds, walnuts, and a carbohydrate-rich evening meal improved your mood. When I say a carbohydrate-rich evening meal, I don't mean topped off with a slice of cake. We're talking about whole foods. We're talking about whole grains, fruits and vegetables, real food, as close to nature as you can get, because carbs are what the human body was made to run on. And they're not evil. We have made them evil because we have so much processed food. But moving on, high fruit and vegetable intake on one day predicted a positive mood the next day. I can attest to this personally. When I don't have my normal heavy on the fruit and vegetable diet one day, I can tell the next day I'm sluggish, I have a little brain fog. The amount needed for meaningful change, it sounds like a lot. 7+ daily servings of fruit and 8+ daily servings of vegetables. So what does a serving of fruit look like? It's a medium banana, apple, orange, pear, or it's a cup of diced or canned fruit. And then for the vegetables, it can be a cup of raw vegetables or a half a cup of cooked vegetables. So it's really not that much. A single serving is not really that much. 2 medium carrots or celery, 1 bell pepper, or 2 cups of leafy greens. Each of those is an example of what a serving of fruits and vegetables look like. And if it sounds like a lot, remember that the recommendation is that half of your plate should consist of fruits and vegetables at every meal. So every bite you take is either fighting disease or feeding it. And I hope that you are kind of getting that message by now. Let's talk a little bit about the SAD state of the American diet. That's the acronym SAD for the Standard American Diet. And you can see from this graph that 53% of what Americans eat is processed foods. Another 32% is animal products. So 85% of this diet is processed or animal products. 11% veggies, fruits, beans, and nuts. Okay, well, you know, that's not so bad, except that half of that is French fries and ketchup. So we know those aren't health promoting foods. And then 4% whole grains. So, you know, really the message I want to share with you about this is that the standard American diet provides downstream revenue for the US healthcare system by feeding all of these chronic diseases that we have. Eating this way will give you standard American diseases. This graph can be a little bit confusing at first, the Mediterranean versus the Western diet. The Western diet, of course, is what we were just talking about, the standard American diet. On the right, you see this chronic disease pyramid, the inverted triangle. The top of this is the meaty processed foods, ice cream, takeout foods. And then right below that, you've got fish and chicken and dairy and eggs and all of that. And then below that, you can see your grains and your beans. And then below that, you've got all the fruits and vegetables in there. And these foods, the way this particular pyramid is structured with all these less healthy foods on the top, their foods are very highly processed and they're very low fiber because they're not fruits and vegetables. They're not plant-based foods. And these can lead to dysbiosis. And then conversely, on the left, you've got the gut microbiota pyramid, which is a beautiful way to say that this is going to promote gut health. It leads to symbiosis with high fiber, whole natural foods. And a word about the Mediterranean diet. When people think about the Mediterranean diet, I think we think about olive oil as the health promoting part of that. And that's really not the case. In fact, that's a whole other topic about oils. But the Mediterranean diet is healthy because its base consists of fruits and vegetables, grains and beans, and just has meat and dairy as condiments, really. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this little anatomy lesson. Most of us haven't had anatomy in a long time, but what I really want to focus on here is that the small intestine is almost 22 feet long, doing a lot of work in our body. It's only an inch in diameter, so small in diameter, but very, very long there. It looks like a bunch of spaghetti plugged in there. That's where the nutrients are absorbed from the foods we eat. And then the large intestine, much larger, 4 inches in diameter, less than 5 feet long, absorbs the water, and then, you know, creates the food to be prepared for evacuation from our body. So just wanted to go through that and remind you that our intestinal system, there's a lot going on in there. Another little slide about the benefits of plant-based nutrition. Every plant has its own unique mix of gut healing fiber, and each plant has its own unique mix of nutrients: fiber, protein, carbohydrates, healthy fats, vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals. There are at least 8,000 phytochemicals. Many of them we haven't even studied. There is a lot about nutrition that we don't know. As Dr. T. Colin Campbell says, food is a symphony, not an exercise in reductionism. And what that means is that we tend to see food as, oh, that's a carb, I need more protein, I need some fiber, I need these healthy fats, the vitamins and minerals. Well, when we break down foods in that way, we're not getting the full benefit of that symphony that is the real whole food. And variety is the key to optimal nutrition. In fact, the golden rule of gut health is that the single greatest predictor of a healthy gut microbiome is the diversity of plants in one's diet. Again, this is from my new favorite book, FiberField, which of course is included in my reference list. And this is Dr. Will Bolsewitz. He is a gastroenterologist in Charleston. And he also is a researcher. So he's very knowledgeable and very, very, very interested in the gut. And he has this F Goals foods, which I hadn't heard of before. And these are fundamental foods to build our microbiome for gut health. So the F is for fruit with the spotlight on berries, all berries. Blueberries are the star, but all berries are good. He has a whole chapter devoted to fermented foods because he's a huge believer in fermented foods. The G is for greens and grains, unrefined grains, brown rice, whole wheat, pasta, things like that. The O is for omega-3 superfoods, which includes flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds. A is for aromatics, onions, and garlic. The L is for legumes, which provide prebiotic fiber and resistant starches for our gut. The S is for sulforaphanes, and the star of this is broccoli sprouts. He has a page to show you how to grow your own broccoli sprouts at home, and other cruciferous vegetables, kale, cauliflower, broccoli, things like that. So let's talk about definitions a little bit, because I've thrown these terms around. The gut microbiota is the broad, expansive community of organisms that live inside us in harmony, in balance, and with a purpose. Ideally, they're in harmony and in balance. The microbiome refers to the genetic code of this community. And inside of humans, we have 5 types of organisms. Bacteria, which we are certainly all familiar with, single-celled organisms, most of them are beneficial. We tend to focus on the ones that are harmful and try to get rid of them. And sometimes we overdo that with all the wipes and the hand washing and everything that we're doing. Of course, we're in a pandemic right now. Of course, we need to be washing our hands, but I'm not sure that we need to be sanitizing every single thing that we, touch as humans. Fungi are multicellular with a nucleus and other organelles. Viruses are tiny particles made of DNA or RNA with no cell. But parasites are nature's thieves, many types of them that steal energy from the host and they don't give us anything back in return. And archaea, this is a term I was not familiar with until reading this book. These organisms are over 4 billion years old, and they are very resilient, found in the depths of the ocean and in volcanoes. So they're very resilient. They don't compete with bacteria and fungi in our gut, and they don't appear to be easily manipulated by diet. So there's more research going on about these, and I suspect you'll be hearing more about them in the next few years or so. Let's talk a little bit about prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics, because I think most people are familiar with probiotics. Many people take supplements as probiotics, but the prebiotics are food for our healthy gut microbes. These are the nutrients that qualitatively change the composition of the gut microbes, providing the food that promotes good bacteria growth. So like in fiber, what we see in the fruits, vegetables, and the grains and the beans. So that leads into the probiotics. These are the microbes with beneficial qualities that are created from the prebiotics. So these are the gut microbes themselves, the probiotics. They help to promote health promoting aspects of the microbe ecosystem, including strengthening our barrier against infection, as well as the antibacterial, immune modulating, and anti-inflammatory aspects. You find probiotics in foods like yogurt, kefir, kombucha, and kimchi, again, the fermented foods that he is so fond of. Postbiotics are the compounds produced by gut microbes. So the postbiotics are the metabolites of the probiotics, which are created from the prebiotics. So you can see hopefully how this all fits together. As intestinal microbes consume the prebiotic fiber, the result of that fermentation is known as postbiotics. I hope that clears it up. So let's talk a little bit about how our gut flora has changed over generations and decades and centuries. This is from a book called The Good Gut. I also recommend this. It's in the reading list at the back. Justin and Erica Sonnenberg are 2 PhDs who are researchers into gut health. And the biggest thing that has changed our gut flora, or one of the biggest things, is our increased consumption of industrialized, calorie-dense processed foods. And that is the definition of the standard American diet. The widespread use of antibiotics and antibacterial cleansers is also another aspect, which I touched on briefly a little bit ago. An increase in cesarean deliveries, which now accounts for 1 in 3 births. And the reason for this is that the infants don't have a chance to collect the mother's microbes during delivery when they're being delivered by a cesarean section. The decline in breastfeeding, in addition to that lack of skin-to-skin contact, the ideal food for an infant is breast milk, mother's milk. And, a lot of infants are not receiving that in the way that they need to. If the gut bacteria are not healthy, we're at increased risk of developing autoimmune disease and cancer. So we're talking, of course, about things outside of the mental health realm, because again, everything is related inside our bodies, for better or for worse. Nurturing our gut bacteria so that they produce the compounds that our bodies need is one of the most important choices we can make for our health. So I would refer you back to the golden rule of gut health, the variety of plants, the diversity of plants in our diet. So these are just some statistics and fun facts that I pulled out of these books. Each of us has the microbiota as unique as our fingerprint that impacts our predisposition to different diseases. So we are all different, and what works for one person may not work for another. But generally speaking, a human gut needs to have a good bit of plant fiber in order to function at its optimum level. The microbiota can malfunction and contribute to the development of diseases and conditions such as obesity that we once thought were attributable solely to lifestyle. So this was very interesting to me because we do tend to think of obesity as a calorie in, calorie out problem. You know, we're eating too much and exercising too little, but science is showing us that there are other reasons there. And there have been some very interesting studies done that have reversed obesity or even caused obesity in mice because of some of the testing that they've done on those. The next topic, because of our microbiota's capacity for change, it enables us to alter our overall health as we age. This is the best news ever. And I can tell you that as I've changed the way that I've eaten over the last 10 years, I have vastly improved my health. So that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about talking about this, is because if I can do it, anybody can do it. I was a junk food junkie, and I just want people to live as long as they can, as well as they can. There are 39 trillion microorganisms in our colons. We are 10% human and 90% bacterial. That's a bit disappointing to read because we think we're, we're all important humans, but we are actually 90% bacteria. So we need to take care of what we have going on in our gut. There are 36,000 species of bacteria in our gut, and 70% of our immune system resides in our gut. Again, the immune response, critical for what we're dealing with in a pandemic right now. The benefits of fiber, it increased satiety, meaning you feel satisfied and full, not overly stuffed, but fiber helps us feel full. It certainly increases the health of our gut microbiome. It is tied to improved mood and mental health, improves digestion and regularity. And a word of caution about increasing your fiber intake. If you have not been eating a lot of fiber and you start to include more fiber in your diet, please increase your water intake to make sure that you keep things going through there as they need to be going. Helps to stabilize blood sugar, lower total cholesterol, lower body weight. And again, fiber is only found in plant foods. Here's another quote from Dr. B. Fiber is the heart and soul of true gut healing, and true gut healing leads to better health in everything, from your cardiovascular system to your brain health to your hormonal health. I can't stress enough how amazing it is to me how interconnected everything is and how much impact we can have on that by what we eat. Dysbiosis, we've had this term thrown around several times already today. The definition of this is the loss of harmony and balance within the gut. It leads to an increase in harmful microbes, low diversity of microbes, a decrease in beneficial microbes, and a decrease in beneficial bacterial metabolites, an increase in harmful bacterial metabolites, and increased inflammation and possibly leaky gut. And you can see in the graphic that dysbiosis is associated with a lot of different things here. Certainly with aging, we can't do anything about that, but most of the rest of these we can do something about with what we're eating, and physical activity and stress reduction, all of the lifestyle behaviors. But we're really here to talk about mental health. So let's look at this list of neuropsychiatric conditions associated with dysbiosis, with gut dysfunction. Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, Parkinson's, schizophrenia, ADHD, ALS, chronic fatigue syndrome, restless leg syndrome, anxiety, depression, autism spectrum disorder, bipolar, migraine headaches, fibromyalgia, and hepatic encephalopathy. All of these things are associated with your gut health. And like I said, we can improve it or we can make it worse depending on what we're doing with our lifestyle. Symptoms of damage to the gut microbiota or dysbiosis, you can see obviously on the left, the intestinal symptoms, those are pretty obvious. Especially again, going back to the binge drinking, if you've had a full night of alcohol intake, you may have some of these things going on the next day. Or if you've eaten something that didn't agree with you, you can have some of these things going on. The gas and the bloating, just lots of indigestion, heartburn, and reflux. These are all made worse or better by some of the foods that we eat. And the extra intestinal things that can be symptoms of damage include things like brain fog, difficulty concentrating, mood imbalance, and anxiety, in addition to all of these other things that are listed here. And you will get these slides, so you'll see these there. Let's focus a bit on dementia because it's certainly one of the fastest growing problems that we have as our population ages. And, myself and many of my contemporaries are worried about Alzheimer's. Either we for ourselves, or we've seen our parents succumb to it, or those we love. And I suspect every single one of you out there knows someone who either has dealt with Alzheimer's or knows someone they love has dealt with it. The Alzheimer's Society tells us that a lifelong approach to good health is the best way to lower your risk of dementia. Well, I certainly wish I had focused on this 40 years ago, but I did not. I started eating this way about 10 years ago. It has improved my health dramatically, and it's never too late to start, also never too early to start taking care of yourself. But long-term research studies have demonstrated that high blood pressure in midlife is a key factor to increase your risk of developing dementia in later life, especially vascular dementia. Even moderately elevated blood pressure is implicated. So we're talking like a 140/90 blood pressure. And then I'm going to show you the Dr. Scherzai in just a moment. But before we get to that, I want to focus on this based on this book, Power Foods for the Brain from Dr. Neil Barnard. You can see the graphic, the healthy brain on the left, it's nice and plump. And then the severe Alzheimer's brain on the right, it's shriveled, and you can see why the memory is impacted when you look at this picture of the brain. So a little bit of background on this: 1 in 5 Americans, 74 to 85, develops Alzheimer's disease. It is a progressive disease that impairs memory, thinking, mood, and problem solving. It's terrible to watch somebody you love slip away with this disease. It really is, it's heartbreaking. It's one type of dementia that accounts for 60 to 80% of the cases. It affects 1 in 6 women and 1 in 11 men. So almost twice as many women as men. Part of that may be because women live longer than men, generally speaking. But after age 85, almost half of us are affected with dementia or Alzheimer's. And it's not just a part of life we have to put up with or an automatic part of growing older, like we tend to we've been led to believe, well, that's just going to happen as you get older. That is not necessarily the case. We can make changes with specific foods and eating patterns to either have a protective effect or a harmful effect. Simple choices can enhance and protect your brain, give you more energy, improve your sleep, and boost your overall health. And again, we're talking about this whole aspect of lifestyle medicine. So here are the Doctors Scherzai, Doctors Aisha and Dean Scherzai. I first found out about them 2 or 3 years ago at a conference. Their mantra is prevention is the new treatment, and they are Alzheimer's and dementia experts. They're both neurologists with a focus on public health and community perspective. They each have a personal story about why this disease is important to them and why they want to help make a difference. They have a podcast, as you can see here, The Brain Health and Beyond. The book I highly recommend, The Alzheimer's Solution. They have a newer book, The 30-Day Alzheimer's Solution, which also has recipes in there that can help you create your own plan for decreasing your risk of cognitive decline. They have a website called teamscherzai.com, and they have a lifestyle plan called the Neuro Plan, which is focused on nutrition, exercise, unwind, restore, and optimize. So again, combining several different behaviors to try to maximize health and wellness and keep our brains healthy as long as possible. This is just a slide showing the pathology associated with Alzheimer's disease. You can see in the graphic on the left, we have a healthy neuron. On the right, we've got amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles. The amyloid plaques are abnormal protein fragments that are in the brain. And then the twisted protein fibers inside the neurons are the tangles. This leads to a loss of connections between our neurons, which leads to an eventual atrophy or shrinking of the brain. The processes involved in this are four things. Inflammation. Again, you can see why we want to have anti-inflammatory things with our diet and with our activities. Inflammation, oxidation, glucose dysregulation, and lipid dysregulation. So let's look at these a little more closely together here, these four things. Inflammation is triggered by stress and high sugar diets. And I think the statistic is that 80% of foods in American grocery stores have added sugar. Unless you're eating everything at home that you're preparing, you don't really know what's in your food, honestly. Oxidation, another way that harms our brain. Free radicals, the cells to combat the free radicals are damaged over time by poor diet, lack of exercise, chronic stress, lack of quality sleep, and general aging. Again, aging is something we can't do anything about, and we're blessed to be aging, frankly, but we can make changes with these other aspects. Glucose dysregulation can also be known as insulin resistance. With diabetes, there's brain shrinkage in the hippocampus, the memory center. And remember, I said we have an epidemic of type 2 diabetes in this country and pre-diabetes. Lipid dysregulation can lead to plaque formation, vascular disease, a very similar process with cardiovascular disease. The vessels in our brain are collecting plaque, much like the vessels in your heart collect plaque and cause myocardial infarctions there. So let's talk about stress. We all are quite familiar with stress. If you're not familiar with stress, please let me know your secret to not being familiar with stress. Chronic stress causes wear and tear on the body. We know that. It affects every body system. Some of the symptoms: muscle tension, headaches, hyperventilation or shallow breathing, releases these stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, and epinephrine, so that we are on high go all the time. The fight or flight response, we never really have a chance to get back down to baseline where we can relax because we're just jacked up all the time. Increases blood pressure, heart rate, and blood sugar. Stomach ulcers, heartburn, acid reflux, and a decrease in testosterone and menstrual problems. So all of our symptoms and all of our systems are related. Also decreases our immune system. And stress can cause alterations in the gut microbiota and an increase in intestinal permeability, leading to dysbiosis. So again, the dysbiosis can cause stress. The stress can cause dysbiosis. Stress management and mindfulness practices can increase that production of the short chain fatty acids and anti-inflammatory metabolites. So all of these things can be helped just by mindfulness and, stress management practices, meditation. But what do we turn to when we're stressed? We turn to these comfort foods that make us feel so good in the moment, but they are high fat, high sugar foods, and they're really the worst possible choice. They make us feel tired and lethargic. We have brain fog. We can't cope with stress when we're tired and we're irritable. They increase our blood sugar rapidly and they cause it to crash, which leads us to craving more sugar to get that blood sugar back up and these cravings, and it's just a vicious cycle. What is missing from these foods? Fiber. There's no fiber in these foods, so they're not regulating our blood sugar. They're not helping to regulate our metabolism. They're just causing us more problems than anything else. It's a short-term fix that really causes long-term problems for us. Mood regulation in food, phytochemicals, we mentioned before, there are more than 8,000 of those in foods. They act as natural antidepressants. So here are just some examples of foods that do that. Apples, kale, berries, grapes, onions, and green tea. And we know that really highly colored foods have more antioxidants and more phytonutrients than foods that aren't highly colored. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. Some examples are walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds. Tryptophan and serotonin increase our feelings of happiness and well-being. And as we said earlier, supplements are not the answer because food is a symphony. We need to be getting these things from our food. Leafy greens, sunflower seeds, watercress, soybeans, pumpkin seeds, mushrooms, broccoli, and peas are just examples of where you can find tryptophan and serotonin. We really need to focus on these complex carbohydrates, again, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes. So not a dirty word. Carbohydrate is not a dirty word. It's the refined carbohydrates that are the problem. There's really not much for me to say about this slide. I just really love this picture because we do use food to protect our brain. We can do that. We can do it better. When we know better, we do better. But I did want to point out a couple of studies for you. In 1990, Dr. Dean Ornish did a study on reversing heart disease with a population of cardiac rehab patients, which included a plant-based diet, exercise, and a support group, and some other aspects to it. And they were able to show a reversal in heart disease through this study. The Barnard study, Dr. Neil Barnard has done numerous studies continuing to do research, but they have shown the studies have shown reversal of obesity, diabetes, and cholesterol with a plant-based diet. Avoiding animal products is really the key because they contain saturated fat and cholesterol and a whole host of other issues associated with eating animal products. So, in summary, the food you eat can be either the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. I really do believe this message. I really do believe in this. If your food is predominantly the food on the left, which is beautiful colors, you can practically see all these phytonutrients jumping out at you from these foods versus what's going on the right of the screen here with all these processed foods. I mean, really, I can look at this and practically feel my arteries squeezing shut from all the stuff that's in there. And then all the chemicals and all the additives, they're not regulated. Some of them are just not regulated as closely as they need to be. The United States is a little bit looser than some other countries with what we allow in our foods. So that leads us to the resources page. And I think we have time for questions if there are any of those. And I'm going to leave this page up here so that y'all can see this if you want to ask any questions about this. One thing I do want to say about these resources on the bullet, I don't know, maybe the sixth one down, the Gut Health MD and the plantfedgut.com/research. If you go to that plantfedgut.com research page, you can get a free guide that's 114 pages long that can guide you through how to interpret research studies. It's free. So if you're interested in that, that's a very valuable resource.
Lori, thank you so much. We do have one question in the Q&A, and I assume that we'll probably have a couple more as we go through. The first question is, what are good foods to focus on if you're currently working through depression and or working through high stress times of life that will have a positive impact?
I really think any sort of plant-based food, anytime you can substitute a whole food for a processed food, it's going to be a good fit. As far as foods that there was a slide there that had foods that were higher in serotonin and tryptophan, and honestly, I can't remember what they were. But any sort of plant-based food is going to be a better option than anything that you buy at the QT or anything like that. Although QT, they do have some healthy options, I'll have to say that. So that was probably not the best example, but I hope that answers the question. I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but substituting for processed foods with real food is always going to give you a better outcome.
Let's see, are there any more questions? We've got about 10 minutes left. If there are any questions for Lori, you can either put them in the Q&A or the chat. Some folks are already thanking you for this great presentation.
Oh, thanks.
It has been very, very informative, and look at all the great resources that you shared with us. Make sure you look in the, scroll up in the chat. You'll see the link for the Google Drive document and the folders that have both the PowerPoint and these. There's some awesome resource handouts that Lori has shared with us with great information. And if you are interested in the CE credits, I also put the instructions for that in the chat. So please reference that before you get off the call, so you can have that information. Lori also put her email address on this last slide, as you can see, and that she's, welcome to take questions after today, or if you need further resources, contact her at lboyd@palspartanburg.org. Any other questions or comments?
This has been great. I wish I had been able to see everybody in person. That's so much more fun, but thank you so much for the opportunity,
I
Maggie.
look forward to when we can be back in person, all of us together. It's definitely a better feeling, but we really, really appreciate you sharing all this good information with us today, Lori. It makes me definitely want to spend more time planning meals for sure. And
it can be time consuming, but
yes,
there are some shortcuts out there. There's frozen fruits and vegetables. Sorry, what's that?
Anything in particular you'd recommend for that shortcut?
Meal prepping is always a great thing to do. If you just need to set aside some time. I like to do the majority of my cooking on the weekends and then just eat leftovers all week. There are only 2 of us in my household though. So, if I cook too much, then we end up not eating some of the food sometimes. And I hate to waste food.
Yeah, sure. No, I think meal prep is a great way to do that. That's awesome.
It is. And it just takes some planning and it takes some time and it takes some practice, frankly. But there are lots of great resources out there too. Like you can do freezer meals. I do freezer meals periodically where I just put a bunch of things in the bag in the freezer and then pull them out and stick them either in the Instant Pot or the slow cooker. We really have a lot of conveniences that our predecessors didn't have, where we can cook food quickly and healthfully. So it's just such a fast food nation. It's hard.
It is hard. And I do think it does take some planning, preparation. There are a few apps out there too that will do kind of what you're talking about. If you have a family that you're preparing foods for and you need to figure out how many servings to, I know Intent is one of them. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And then Prepare is another one. If you put in the recipe, and then it'll tell you how many servings. I mean, you can choose how many servings, and then it'll tell you what to buy and the quantities and all that kind of stuff for your meal prep. We do have another question. What are 2 really good cookbooks that are plant-based?
My favorite that I use the most is one called Plant Pure Nation. It's the daughter-in-law of Dr. T. Colin Campbell, as it happens. It's funny how this health runs in families.
Yeah.
And trying to think of another one. Dr. Michael Greger has a How Not to Diet cookbook, which is a good one. And when the word diet, I didn't even say this during the presentation, but to me, that's a 4-letter word because it really signifies something that's short-lived. And we're talking about changing habits and changing behaviors. That's what this lifestyle medicine is all about. And it certainly can be done. Like I said, if I can do this, anybody can do this, because I was the original junk food junkie. My kids grew up on fast food, and I am no model of how to parent and raise healthy kids. Like I said, I wish I'd learned all this 40 years ago, but I didn't. And so now that I know it, I just want everybody else to know it too.
Well, we're so grateful that you're willing to share with us today all this good information.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. And thank you all for attending, and don't hesitate to reach out if I can help you.
Thank you so much, Lori.
Thanks,
Maggie,
Maggie,
for participating today, and we will see you at our next Lunch and Learn series in May, and hopefully before then you'll come to our event in April. Thank you, guys.
23rd, right?
Yes, April 23rd, and it's called Be Kind to Your Mind. It goes very well along with your presentation today.
Perfect. 5 to 8 p.m. at the Hub City Farmers Market.
Yep. Hub City Farmers Market. That's right. So great.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.